Now, when I say extreme, there's probably people that think of, say, Saw. Now, while Saw is a good example, it's not the best example, because there are a lot more extreme films out there. Okay, so let's obviously talk about Saw. Saw 1, 2 and 3, mainly. Because they're the best ones. After... I will get around to reviewing them sometime, but they're quite intense, not fearful, but they will disgust some people with the actions that happen in the film. I won't discuss them into too much detail because there's probably some people that have seen them to death and probably don't want to hear me talk about them and would probably want to watch them instead. But Saw 1, 2 and 3, watch them. If you like them, carry on with the series. If you don't like the first one, then I would just stop and say go back to whatever you was watching before. Now, the question is where to start with the extreme side, because I've seen a fair few. I could start with the weakest or the strongest. I'm going to start with a French film called Martyrs. Now, that's one of the first films that has actually shocked me to straight down. I watched it off the horror channel, that's like channel 319 on Sky, and it was absolute. I was fine with like the first half an hour of it. Then it got to the bit where they said they were tortured women and like tortured them to death to get them to this point where they could see like what the afterlife was like and come back to it and then tell someone and then end up dying. It was absolutely shocking and brutal. There's a bit where a woman gets all of her skin like surgically removed apart from her face on it, and that actually nearly made me throw up. It was quite grotesque. Another film, well, two films. I choose to forget the second film for very good reason, but the Human Centipede films, if you don't know what they are, basically what it's about are people that are sewn from mouth to arse. Not pleasant, not nice. The first one, the first like 10 minutes, the bit where where the two girls' car breaks down and the German person pulls up next to them and thinks that they're porn stars, is quite amusing. I will give you that. But Tom Six has created a new level of shocking, especially with the Human Centipede 2, because I have seen it and I choose not to remember it. I'm not going to go into detail what happens into it, but the fact that it's in black and white makes it more brutal, and I would recommend you stay away from it unless you really, really, really want to watch it. Third one's out. I don't know when. Obviously, he's gone on his hiatus on Twitter because they won't verify his account, but yet they'll verify some smaller directors' accounts. I don't know. I hope that he comes back soon, though, because some of his tweets are genius, and it would be nice to get an update for the Human Centipede 3. Okay, I've got loads of films to discuss in this. The Hostel trilogy. I have reviewed them, and they will be coming up sometime. Eli Roth directed 1 and 2, and Quentin Tarantino, produced 1 and 2. Some of the most absolute shocking moments in any, I won't say mainstream, it's probably like the most mainstream extreme horror films that there are. I mean, you look at some of the other ones and no one's heard of them. It's basically about a group of people called the Elite Hunting Club who sell people to rich people to kill. That's the premise for it. The first two are set in Europe, and number 3 is set in Las Vegas, which is quite a good setting for it, I will give you that, and plus the ending to 3 is brilliant. I just wish he would come back and do the 4th one with Eli Roth. Little known film this one is, debuted last year at Fright Fest, called American Mary. Now, if you've not seen it, I reviewed it not so long ago, so watch the review. But basically what happens is a medical student ends up in a world full of, I can't remember what it is, but it's like body modifications and self-amputation, and it's so weird and it's disgusting at the same time, but it managed to keep me on the edge of my seat throughout the whole thing, because it was intense. And at times it was quite shocking, I will give you that. But I have to give it to the directors, I apologise once again if I have pronounced your names wrong. The Soska twins, they created a masterpiece with that one, from start to finish. 2 more films as far as I can think of at the top of my head at the minute. Which one first? You've got probably the most brutal and shocking film of all time, and probably the film which shocked me right down to the core, from start to finish. Okay, let's go for the most shocking one first. Cannibal Holocaust. Now, I really recommend that if you're into extreme disgusting films, like all the disgustingness from all the hostels and the human centipedes at the same time, wrapped in a ball into one film, watch it because it is shocking and brutal and so upsetting. However, if you're, say, into just the Saw films, please don't. And animal lovers, please don't, because it's the most controversial film of all time, probably for the fact that it shows actual animals getting killed. It's one of the reasons why it's been banned for so long, and why it's still banned in goodness knows how many countries. So please do not watch it if you're an animal lover, because it will only upset you and it will only shock you, and it's quite brutal. And if you're going to watch a film similar to that, I can't remember whether it's a sequel or a remake. It came out not so long ago called Welcome to the Jungle. Also, Eli Roth is doing something to do with Cannibal Holocaust, and I can imagine it's going to be more extreme than Cannibal Holocaust. So, but it won't be actual animals being killed in that one. If there is animals dying, it'll be props. So, Welcome to the Jungle, not as good as Cannibal Holocaust, but then less extreme at the same time, so you might want to watch that. Final film that I'm going to talk about here is one that shocks me and still haunts me now. It is called a Serbian film. Now, I know there's quite a lot of people that have watched it because they doubt. I've said to people not to watch it because it's one of the most shocking things that I've ever seen, and they have actually watched it. I don't know why people do that, because I was actually trying to warn them that not to watch it, and they came to me afterwards and said that they should have listened to me. Basically, it's about a former Serbian porn star, and he ends up getting into this circle of real weirdness. The reason why it shocked me from start to finish is because a little boy is watching his dad in a porn video right at the start of the film. The boy's like 7 or 8, so you can imagine that it is extremely shocking. I'm not going to go into detail for it because I don't want to spoil it for people that have watched it, but it is the most shocking thing, so please be prepared for the worst for it. They're the only films. I can talk more about them than I can vampires. That's quite scary, to be honest. That leaves me with slashers and paranormal films. So I think next time I'm going to discuss slashers.